Contest on 107.5 The Game.
Wes, Chris, how closely do y'all watch the depth chart that gets released every week, sometime late Monday afternoon or early evening?
I know where you're going with this, and I did look at it this week. I would say it's not like a must viewing. I have missed it a couple of weeks, but I did see the email, and I said, let me check and see if there's anything intriguing this time.
And was there?
There was one thing that was intriguing.
That short snapper battle back and forth this season has been, just brutal. Would you believe me if I told you I had a calendar alert for the depth chart each week?
Yes.
You would?
Mm-hmm. I don't think that's something you would make up. So
I do not.
No, it is something you would make up.
Yeah, it is something I would make up. But I do like it. I believe that it means something. Chris, how much do you even look at it? Because I think most people probably don't.
I look at it and I look at it so casually sometimes that I'll miss if there's a new little or something.
Did you notice that Zach Pickens had an or next to his name this week?
I didn't.
Okay,
but I know now because I did listen to y'all again for a little while.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah,
I really appreciate
it.
Yeah, Wes, what do you make of that?
Well, the most interesting thing to me is I believe it was an or with MJ Webb.
Yes,
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yet last week, Webb didn't start beside Pickens. It was actually Tonka. So Tonka and MJ had kind of been battling for the spot beside Zach Pickens. And at least for last week, Tonka had won it. The week before, it was MJ. I don't know if there was some matchup, thoughts there as well. But, interesting. Here's the thing. You didn't put the or there for nothing.
Exactly.
It's not like it's
a typo.
It's not like it's just been sitting there, which would be hilarious, actually. It's not like it's been sitting there all year long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is that a reward for MJ Webb, or is that a, hey, man, need a little more out of you?
Or the third option that Preston mentioned earlier is Zach has he been a little bit banged up? Shane Bieber didn't mention it Sunday night, but maybe something to keep an eye on today when Shane has his media availability.
I think you watch Zach. He's never been on the injury report, I don't think, this year. But there have been times where, and I don't even know if it gets caught on television, there have been times where he has looked banged up. And then I think it was Zach that I was watching, and he just basically waved off.
I made a note of that in the SC State game. Like, he was down. He kind of pounded the turf a couple times, got up very slowly.
And then just said, go away,
yeah,
I got
Tonka
this.
had already run onto the field for him, and he was like, get out of here. Which I was like, oh, that's good. That's what you want to see from a guy that's supposed to be your leader, someone that's not trying to tap out of a game, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think a lot of guys are. I mean, how few guys are 100% right now? Like the guys that are playing have some, in Preston saying 0, they have some bruise, some bang, some something bothering them, and it's kind of the difference between being injured and just being hurting a little bit, I guess.
Right. Although, again, at this point, fair to say we haven't heard anything about him being injured. So, safest assumptions are either MJ has done something that impressed the coaches, or Zach has not met the expectations of the coaching staff, which I think is worth examining. Your observation about it being MJ as the backup, not next to Zach, is very interesting to me. I want to come back to that. And, go ahead.
No, well, on the depth chart, Tonka is in the starting position at the other tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, that might be because Boogie is coming off of injury. Maybe he's working his way back into the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I was really surprised, based on what we were told. I was surprised to see him out. He played last game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised to see him sort of back into the lineup as early as he was. So, to Wes's point, Tonka has sort of, if we're looking for any silver lining, positive vibes, whatever, Tonka has sort of ascended himself up the ranks of the depth chart, and I think that's something that we've all been looking for to this point.
Well, and maybe I was just watching it wrong, and y'all can correct me, Wes and Chris, assuming y'all have the answer. Did Tonka play some 3-tech last week? I thought I saw him playing because he came in as an end, and then it was a huge point of emphasis. No, they're gonna, or excuse me, a 5-tech. I thought he was playing outside. I thought I saw him playing out, which would make sense because Carolina's been thin at end. I thought I saw him play an end a couple plays, and it's funny because he came in as an end, and then it was like, oh, such a point of emphasis to play him inside, and then now he's playing outside again. I didn't know how much of an impact that was maybe making on his playing time if he was going to end up playing a little more end as a reserve.
Yeah, he played some end against Georgia.
Yep.
And that was the first week that I can recall that we've seen that. He played a little bit of end, I think, against Arkansas, but it was when they were in that 3-4 look, so you're really not spread out. It's kind of basically the same almost as playing a 3-tech in the 4-man front. But he played some edge against Georgia. I don't think he played any edge against Charlotte. He may have against SC State. I don't recall seeing him out there, but yes, they are, depending on down distance opponent, they are sort of cross training him at this point to play sort of in place of Gilbert in either running down in distances or, I think potentially this week against a Kentucky team that's going to want to try to be physical and run the football. That probably is something you look at from a South Carolina game plan perspective.
And maybe having him, I guess what I'm getting at is maybe having him as sort of a co-starter listed there with Boogie looks where they will have Tonka and Boogie out there with whoever between Zach and MJ, and then I guess Birch on the other side. Like you talk about just get your best 4 guys out there. Maybe they feel like that's Tonka, and whether that's end or whether that's inside, they just want him on the field.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And
he has media availability today, so he will presumably be asked.
I also wonder, hey, you gave him the big man touchdown. Does that you could have picked other big men for the big men touchdown, or 2-point conversion, I should say, but he got to score.
That's true.
Was that just because he quite literally was like, all right, this is the best guy to run this play, or was it like, hey, let's reward Tonka because he's doing things the right way and has the skill set for this play?
2-point conversion and an or in the same week. Big week for Tonka. Chris, you just roll your eyes at the or, don't you?
No. I mean, I think I was just laughing at that. That is a big week. No, I think the or can be meaningful. Sometimes it gets on there to start the season and it just stays. And I don't know if there's any intentionality at all where somebody looks at it and goes, okay, should we keep the or? Sure. Whatever. Or you just kind of gloss over it.
Like the Xavier or Juice right now is an interesting one that doesn't feel like what we've seen play out.
Right. I mean, Juice has certainly played more snaps in games and has been generally more productive as well. But when you get some new ones, I don't know. We would have to go back and do some sort of analysis to see how many ors get removed during the season. I don't feel like
a couple.
Is there a couple? What's been removed?
Well, the clear one that's been removed was Nick Imawari.
Yeah, that was one.
So when he obviously he was started as a backup, injury. Then the first game that RJ Roderick was back, there was an or. Now there's no or there anymore.
Yeah, I feel like more stay than not.
Very true.
In general.
And to that point, there have not been any for the defensive tackles until this week.
Yeah.
So this is the first week it's made an appearance in the room. You think the oars just travel around the building as like a costume and somebody's coming in, like not the Grim Reaper quite, but like they go to a starter and it's like
you tap them on the shoulder.
The or is coming for you.
It's like a pig slip, and they just hand you it. It's just a little post-it note that says or.
Or it's like in the movie. Like, did anybody go see that Smile movie yet?
No, have you seen it?
Okay, no, I saw some of the previews though. So there's like the one where she's sitting with the counselor. She thinks it's her therapist, and it turns into the smile creature or whatever. Like they're sitting there talking to Clayton White, and they're like, "Coach, am I starting this week?" And he just smiles, and then he turns into the Or Monster.
The Or Monster.
The Or Monster's coming for Zach this week, so it's going to be. I said this to Preston earlier. He's either going to get fewer snaps than MJ Webb this week, or he's going to be Javon Kinlaw in the 2019 Georgia game. Like it feels like a public signaling of, hey, not your effort, but your performance hasn't been good enough is going to go one of two ways, and this will be a big week for Zach as well as the rest of the team. So we'll see.
If Zach turns into Javon Kinlaw and you get advance notice, let me know. I will amend my pick for the weekend. Because
okay, good. Yeah,
Javon.
But I mean, that was
he made a little difference in that
in terms of how highly regarded and decorated these guys were coming into college. Zach was expected to be that guy. He hasn't played like it so far, but
I think
in the building, you got to believe it's still in there. You got to believe that the 5-star guy at a high school can still be a 5-star guy in college.
Yeah, I think Zach's shown a lot of flashes, and I think this is the year that, him being a senior, there was an expectation of, take that next step. I don't know, like Javon Kinlaw.
That's a one of one. I don't know if we could compare
yeah.
anything to that.
Yeah,
that's almost like saying, like doing the Birch and Clowney thing or something like that. Like you're just not going to get there. And Javon, I mean, the problem there is Javon was ranked as a high 3 or a low 4-star. I think he was a 4 out of junior college and a high 3 out of high school. And I mean, first time I saw Javon, he was 15 years old and literally didn't know how to do anything. He was a big 6'5". He was 6'5" and like 275, kind of skinny. Didn't know how to run a 40. Couldn't bench press the bar. I don't think. I mean, nothing.
A lot of people thought he'd be an offensive tackle.
Yeah, I was there. I thought he could be. I mean, a lot of schools recruited him as that. Goes to junior college, and he just, like Preston said, I mean, one of one's a good way to describe that. That type of guy just doesn't exist. Very common.
Yeah. I guess I don't even mean like that guy, but point I was trying to make is Zach was expected to come in and be a dominant player.
But I've been thinking about this, and I was thinking of an analogy. But it's like, my daughter's 3, and the other day she said a word, and me and my wife sort of looked at each other like, "Oh, how you know that?" Like I was like, "Really? You said that very clearly instead of messing up this flipping the letters or something." It's like, oh wow. But if she says that same word next year, we're not going to be as surprised, right? It's going to be like, oh, okay, that was good. That was last year.
Yeah.
I need you to
come up with a new word.
Yeah, you need to have a new word. And that's sort of how I feel about Zach. Like, it was good for last year, but to Chris's point, with the expectations of growth, the trajectory seems to not have been quite on the same level.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. And again, hopefully it gets addressed at some point today. But yeah, we'll see. 803-404-6100. A little bit long here. More thoughts on Carolina, Kentucky on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour next.
The early game with Bill Gunter and Jen Jensen. South Carolina does what they need to do. They won a game by 36. They blew someone out. They ran the football. Those things you can at least be positive about this morning.
Yep, no doubt. You finally got to be sitting in Williams-Brice Stadium in the fourth quarter, and you were able to relax a little bit. I think one thing that Shane said one time is dead on, and I really appreciate the fact that he said it. Hey, we're always going to celebrate wins.
On your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
This is Damon Amendolara with your CBS Sports Minute. There's a series of problems with the defending Super Bowl champion Rams, but it starts with an offensive line that is getting manhandled. Let's also ask Sean McVay why the only play in his passing chart seems to be get the ball to Cooper Kupp and just pray that it works. The Rams, right now, don't look anything like champs. This is Damon Amendolara.
Buying a home? Then you've got a lot on your mind. Getting pre-approved, your credit score, closing costs, now rising rates? Phew, it's so much. But with Rocket, you get an advantage. You can lock your rate for 90 days while you search for a home. That's 3 months to shop for your dream home without worrying about rising rates because yours is totally safe. And it gets even better. Let's say rates drop within 3 years of your home purchase. You'll get exclusive savings from Rocket Mortgage when you refinance to a new lower rate. So what are you waiting for? Rocket has your back if rates rise in the short term and if they fall in a few years. So you can lock it and drop it with Rocket, your partner to help you buy today and be certain about tomorrow. That's the Rocket Advantage. Lock your rate now. Call 8337-ROCKET or go to therocketadvantage.com. That's 8337-ROCKET or go to therocketadvantage.com.
Plus on purchase rate between 7/19/2022 and 12/31/2022. Call 1-833-7-ROCKET for coverage fees, terms, and conditions. Equalizing under license in all 50 states. NMLS Consumer Access.org number 3030.
The demand for your used car is at an all-time high, and it's never been worth more. Herndon Chevrolet needs your trade. We'll buy your car, even if you don't buy ours. And to prove it, we're willing to beat any written offer by $500. That's right. We'll beat any written offer by $500. Visit Herndon Chevrolet today.
Herndon Chevrolet, Herndon makes you wanna smile. Smile.
803-630-5929 for more details.
Gamecock Nation, year 2 of the Shane Beamer era is here, and GamecockCentral.com wants to be your source for in-depth coverage and insider information. Come join our exclusive community of South Carolina fans today at GamecockCentral.com.
Hey, y'all. Jay Phillips here from my good friends at Dan's Fan City in Harbison. Ceiling fans don't sound like something you think about a lot because you don't really need to, but when you've got good ones, they work so well, keeping energy costs down and your comfort level up. All kinds of fans at Dan's Fan City, big to small and quiet. Quality fans. They have accessories and light kits, fan blades, and more. Stop by and see them soon. Harbison Boulevard next to Total Wine, or call Dan's Fan City 781-FANS. You'll be glad you did.
Schroeder's Towing wants to remind you that the game isn't over, even after the final whistle.
Yeah, how about that turnover?
Oh, yeah.
Or not turning over. I guess it's a bad time to bring up the false start.
Schroeder's Towing always has your back, every day and every game day. When the final whistle blows, we're ready to tow. The fastest response comes from the most trusted and reliable name in towing. Schroeder's Towing, the best hookers in town.
Schroeder's Towing, the best and fastest hookers in town.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required. Refund available for 60 days after purchase.
Guys, want an effective, affordable way to get ED medication 100% online? Whether you're looking for Viagra or Cialis, or generic medications as effective as Viagra but 90% cheaper, you can find it all through Hims. Hims is your go-to for doctor-trusted treatments to help you treat ED. Get ED treatment for as low as $3 per use and save up to $1,000 per month with generic for Viagra versus the brand name at forhims.com/radio. If prescribed, your medication will be shipped to your door in discreet packaging. Do it all online. No in-person appointments. Get hard results with Hims or your money back. Go to forhims.com/radio to get your first visit free. That's forhims.com/radio to get started free. forhims.com/radio.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive offers a great price and round-the-clock protection when bundling home and auto. It's one of those rare times when you could save money and get something great. Bundle today at Progressive.com.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Pearson Fowler, Chris Clark, and Wes Mitchell on the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
11:26 on a Tuesday morning. Welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour on 107.5 The Game here in the Herndon Chevy Studios. Pearson Fowler, Hall of Famer Preston Thorne, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark. Ahead of Shane Beamer's weekly press conference where he will be previewing Kentucky. Get Wes and Chris's early thoughts on Kentucky here in just a second. I want to remind you, though, to keep listening to 107.5 The Game all football season long for your Carolina Honda Powerhouse Gamecock ticket giveaway. Carolina Honda Powerhouse is your source for Honda Power Sports, and you can visit them online at carolinahonda.com. No home game this week, but when the Gamecocks are back at Williams-Brice for Texas A&M, next game after Kentucky, plenty of opportunities for you here to win some tickets. So keep listening. 107.5 The Game. Real quick, Brock hit us in the text line and says Smile was terrifying. Does that make you more or less likely to go see it, Chris?
Neither, because I don't get to go to the theater a whole lot, but I'll try to catch it, when it drops on whatever streaming service it is.
So
but I do
your
want
plan
to
is
see
to
it.
watch it.
Yes, it might be like 5 years from now, but I'll get to it. It'll go in the
He
queue.
said he wanted to say he's seen all the Conjuring, Paranormal Activities, Insidious. He's never seen a movie scarier. Says he and his girlfriend barely made it through. They did a good job of not making it cheesy. It was great movies, lots of jump scares.
Okay. I'm down.
There you go. There's a scouting report on Smile.
Thank you.
The scouting report on Kentucky. So they're a top 10 team. I do not think they are a top 10 team. They are just currently ranked in the top 10. But I do believe Kentucky's a good team. It's a good program right now. Hank called at the end of our first hour and was like, would you say Kentucky and Carolina have played a roughly similar schedule? I was like, yeah, I think that's pretty fair. 2 SEC opponents for each, a couple of cupcakes for each. And the results for Carolina have been not dissimilar. They're 3-2. Kentucky's 4-1. Kentucky does have the big SEC win against Florida, but you can make the case that both Arkansas and Georgia are better than Florida. And Kentucky's results against their cupcakes in Miami of Ohio, Youngstown State, and Northern Illinois are maybe less impressive than Carolina's drubbing of Charlotte, of their 3-score win over Georgia State. The SC State game, almost kind of put aside, but that was more convincing. Isn't Youngstown State an FCS team? They are. So there you go. So that kind of put Kentucky's start to the season in a different light for me, even as someone that wasn't particularly high on where they were going to end up this season. What's been your early scouting report through the first month and change on the Wildcats?
I mean, Chris and I were talking about this yesterday. I've been surprised at how little they've been able to run the football. I mean, when I think of Kentucky under Stoops, the first thing I think of is like tough nose, physical defense. The second thing I think of is, they're going to run the football and they're going to be hard-headed and they're going to grind away at you. And it's going to be one of those games where it's not going to be flashy, but it's very, very just hard to watch as an opponent, like as a fan of an opponent, because it just doesn't seem like what they're doing is all that special. And then next thing you know, you're down by 10 points and there's like 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and they've just sort of ticked away at you. Mm-hmm. Would y'all believe that they are last in the SEC in rushing as far as just the traditional good old rushing yards per game, and that they are last in the SEC in average yards per carry at 2.52 yards per rush? Caveats, yes, they haven't had Chris Rodriguez until this past week. But one guy doesn't change that for you overnight, even though it does help. The other thing that probably has skewed that a little bit is they are also, not that this is a good thing, but it has affected their rushing statistics. They're last in the SEC in sacks allowed. They have given up 19 sacks, which in college ball, they count that against your rushing total.
Yeah.
So it does skew it a bit, but who would have thought? I mean, they've got less rushing yards per game than Mississippi State, who throws the ball every down.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is really well.
I had to triple, like I did a double take, and then I was like, I'm reading this wrong. I'm an idiot.
That is a mind-numbing stats. I bet they're still like in the middle of the pack, or maybe even in the top half of the SEC in carries, because it doesn't feel like they've changed the way they play, which I think is a credit to them just buying into that identity. But I will say, was that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right in the middle.
Okay. So
8th.
I can't say it's entirely unexpected because they lost both of their tackles, including one tackle at least to the NFL. Maybe both of them are on rosters right now. I believe they lost their starting center from last year, if I remember correctly. And then defensively, they lost a lot too. I was expecting regression from Kentucky this year. So I was already predisposed to not think they were a top 10 program, but to see them up there after, like when we talk about the things that you can't predict in a season, of course, injuries, and then just context. Like if you told me that Kentucky was going to beat Florida before the start of the season, I would have been like, okay, yeah, maybe that happens. But if you told me that Kentucky was going to beat Florida a week after they beat Utah, and everybody thought that Florida was back, and so then everyone was going to do the transitive property and be like, well, Kentucky must be really good because they just beat Florida, and Florida just beat Utah, and Utah just won the Pac-12, and then it's spiraling out of control. The reality is, it doesn't really pass the eye test.
Yeah, you look at their statistics. So I think it's a great point. I do think that we should not take that and go, oh, okay. It'll be fine, because I do think this team is still capable of running the football better than they have. And I'll give a few points to that. Number one is, as Wes said, Chris Rodriguez. His return and his ability to get yards after contact is something, especially we saw South Carolina. We don't need to pull out the statistics of the Arkansas game again. They performed very poorly in that department. And Chris Rodriguez, in his first game back, where he was still getting his legs underneath him, he had 58 yards after contact and forced 7 missed tackles. Pretty doggone good. They also, in some of their games against that softer schedule, They didn't have to run the ball a lot. Against Florida, Smoke had 14 carries. Another game he had 18, but there was one game he had 12 carries. One game he had 7. And Will Levis, who I have now renamed the nominee, that is his official name now.
I put that in the promo for the show that runs throughout the rest of the day.
Oh, he's like a political candidate?
Yeah.
Oh, I would like to hear that. He, he is, though, we're kind of making fun of it. I mean, he is obviously capable of shouldering some of the offensive load. So in those games, without Rodriguez, maybe you lean a little bit more on Will Levis. But I think Wes has a great point, which he's backed up with statistical evidence of what's happened in the games, that this is a little bit of a different look for this team. And their offensive line, perennially, Kentucky has had an underrated offensive line, like year after year after year. They don't appear to be as good this year in protecting the passer or opening holes in the run game.
Yeah. Could be. Well, this will be very interesting. If Kentucky has a tremendous amount of success running the football against Carolina, that will be, for me, probably the final indictment of the rushing defense. And if South Carolina is able to stop them, then maybe that's, for Kentucky fans, kind of the final indictment of the offensive line that's underperformed through the first part of the season. We'll continue to talk a little bit more about Kentucky, some of the early scouting report, where Carolina can attack the Wildcats coming up this Saturday. 803-404-6100. That's the Love Chevy phone line number and the text line number. You can get all of us on Twitter as well, at Pearson Fowler, at Coach P Tweets, at GC Chris Clark, and at Wes Mitchell GC.
More of the Extra Point coming up next on 107.5 The Game.
Government regulations for HVAC systems are changing in 2023. What does that mean for you? It means the time to save is right now. Contact AAA Heating and Air, who must clear out their warehouse to make room for these new regulated systems. No deals will be turned down. Plus, you get a 15-year part and labor warranty, guaranteed financing. Anyone can get a brand new HVAC system as soon as tomorrow. That's AAA Heating and Air at 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
Hey, Gamecock fans, are you a current Gamecock Club member? This is Scott with Gamecock Traditions, and Gamecock Club members, membership has its advantages. But did you know now you can get even bigger advantages when you present your current Gamecock Club card at any Gamecock Traditions location? Gamecock Traditions is a member of the Garnet Market. This means when you show your Gamecock Club card while making an in-store purchase, you'll get 10% off all your Gamecock gear. Gamecock Traditions, 5134 Sunset Boulevard, or visit our new location at Sandhills Mall across from the fountain.
This football season and every football season, come to campus and catch a game. Whatever the game, whoever you're with, just catch a game. Find your tickets online at GamecocksOnline.com.
Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning, the most trusted and reviewed cleaning company in town. Take advantage of their fall sale going on now. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119 when you mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game. Easily schedule your cleaning online at ZeroResColumbia.com.
If your home or business suffers water damage from a storm, the professionals at Polium Restoration are ready to roll fast, 24/7. We're the largest restoration company in the Midlands, with our own technicians, equipment, and the fastest response time guaranteed. At Polium 24/7, we'll get your property back to its pre-loss condition fast. Polium Restoration. Polium247.com. 803-POLIUM.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code WIN for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code WIN for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code WIN.
You wash your hands and brush your teeth, but what about your nose? How do you clean your nose?
with Navage. Navage pulls saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, dirt, and germs, and it's why nose cleaning is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons: sinusitis, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they also find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Nearly 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying things like, best product I've ever used, and amazing, I love my Navage. That's because Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less. But the biggest payoff is improved health. Here's the key point. Navage is good personal hygiene, and it's going to help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, Target, and online. Navage, Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
There's just something different about Medicine Mart of West Columbia.
My name is Eric Moan. I am a happy customer of Medicine Mart in West Columbia. I live on the other side of town from the Medicine Mart in West Columbia. I happily drive the extra distance because they are so friendly, they are so knowledgeable, they care so much about making sure that your health gets protected.
Medicine Mart Pharmacy at 1300 Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia. They look forward to serving you.
Got an appetite for football? Football Saturday and Sundays are back, and you can catch games all day at Twin Peaks. Grab a 29-degree draft and check out our scratch menu. Visiting during the week? No one does happy hour like Twin Peaks. Whatever your preference, we have everything from tequila cocktails and an extensive bourbon menu category to top shelf spirits and cocktails served over ice. Local craft beers and handcrafted whiskey cocktails round out an adventurous drink menu second to none. And don't forget about our 29-degree man-sized drafts.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Pearson Fowler, Chris Clark, and Wes Mitchell on the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
11:40 Tuesday morning, and welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Pearson, Preston, Wes, Chris here with you, talking Carolina, Kentucky. Talking depth chart. Shane Beamer's press conference coming up in, is it 12:30 or 1:30?
1:30.
1:30. So his press conference coming up in just under 2 hours. Players have media availability between now and then. Couple of quick things to get to here. We were talking about Aaron Judge earlier, wondering big historical mile markers that have been reached against legendary players. Roger says Ricky Henderson was Nolan Ryan's 5,000th strikeout.
Oh,
that's a cool one.
That is.
Roman says David Price was pitching when Derek Jeter got his 3,000th hit, and it was also a home run. So two good ones.
Those are. Way to go.
I also wanted to come back to something Wes said earlier. I'm just picking up the pieces of things that I forgot to come back to earlier. The depth chart, interestingly, has Zach Pickens listed as an or with MJ Webb. Wes pointed out that MJ has actually been playing next to Zach, not in lieu of Zach. And so my question for Preston, playing left tackle and right tackle on the offensive line is a huge difference. It's like playing mirror mode in Mario Kart, which for those of you that haven't done it is extremely difficult. Shout out to my friend Joe, who just crushed the all tour mirror mode, got very, very good at it. Anyway, are defensive tackle positions more interchangeable than that, or is it pretty hard to flip what side you're playing?
Nah, you should be able to flip.
Okay.
The only thing that can get a little tricky is if you can be able to get into a right-handed stance or a left-handed stance, depending on you want to put your inside hand down. So your inside hand closest to the ball, you want to be down. So some people might have trouble getting in left-handed stances, but you can just get in a 4-point stance if it's that big of a deal. So that shouldn't be a big deal.
Because you don't see ends flip a whole lot either, for the most part.
That's usually more so for travel purposes, though.
Okay.
Because they don't want to just be running across the formation that much.
Yeah, I was going to say, to be clear, MJ has played as Zach's backup as well.
But last game was playing next to him.
I thought it was interesting that so the prior game, Charlotte game, because we were all saying who's going to start if Boogie doesn't go, and the answer at the time was MJ. But then this past week, the answer was Tonka. So I sort of had it in my head like MJ and Tonka have been battling it out to be the other starter, which this past week it seemed like Tonka beat him out. So I thought it was interesting that MJ got beat out by Tonka this past week. And those two are pretty close, I think, as far as production goes. But now MJ's getting the oar with Zach this week.
I mean, so even based on what you just said, maybe it is a deal where we're rewarding MJ for playing well. It still doesn't bode well for the leader of the team to sort of have that hanging around. But who knows, man? We could be making something out of nothing, but because we're not there. But it wasn't there last week, and it is there this week. So something changed.
It's a zero-sum game. So if you have a payroll of, $500,000, and you want to reward somebody by giving them a salary bump, but your only option is to cut somebody's salary, that person better deserve to have their salary cut. So, Chris, who are Carolina's 4 best defensive linemen, regardless of position?
God. Boo.
On the spot.
Regardless of position. I'm going to go Birch. Don't add the clock, too. Goodness. Birch, Pickens. Those are like the 2 easy, quote-unquote, ones for me. One of them is obviously out. Jordan.
I was about to say, I'm assuming we're going healthy and available.
Yeah, healthy and available. I'm going to say a healthy Boogie Huntley because he was a starter. So that makes it kind of easy.
Okay.
I was just going to pick the starting 4 from the season.
That.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
But I mean,
and Gilbert Edmond, we know that's your guy.
I do like Gilbert. But still, I thought, this needed to be a season where Gilbert could play 20 or 25 snaps.
Right.
And take a step forward. Now hey, we need you to play 40, 50.
Yeah.
Not as ideal for him. So, Boogie, Zach Pickens, Jordan Birch, and I'm kind of trying to figure out if I'm going Tonka or MJ Webb.
You should probably just keep it all South Carolina. You got 3 or 4 guys from the state of South Carolina.
There you go. I'm going to say Tonka.
Okay.
I think I'm going Tonka.
Preston?
I don't know.
Pass.
I don't know.
We'll see. The season starts Saturday.
Okay. Wes?
I don't know either, man. I'll give you what popped in my head. Probably Zach, Birch, Boogie, Tonka. But I think by the end of the year, though, Gilbert is.
Has Gilbert been worse than Birch this year?
Gilbert's thing is just right now in his career, he's like a pass rush first.
Yeah.
And second guy, I feel like.
And third.
Well, yeah, so I think that goes back to expectations. No, he hasn't. To answer that question, no. He hasn't been as good as Birch, but he's also shouldn't be expected to be as good as Birch. So I think from what I've seen, he's been fine or maybe even solid for what was expected to him. As Chris said, he was expected to be more of a sparing contributor as opposed to a starter now. So
I just feel like I see the number 8 on my screen as much as I see the number 5. Which doesn't mean he's good. But
that doesn't mean he's good, and that's not analytics, but it does mean something.
Yeah.
And somebody that shows up has more chances to make plays than somebody who doesn't.
Yeah. I wonder if Carolina, you said the season starts Saturday. I wonder how much of an idea we'll get of maybe how to answer that question. That should be an easy, and maybe it is an easy question to answer, but it should be easy.
Really quick, even on with the with specifically to Zach and MJ, it could be a thing. This is another hypothetical. It could be a thing where if it's snaps or a zero-sum game, say they have 50 snaps in a game or whatever the case is, maybe you're turning the dial up on MJ Webb's number of snaps, but so that Zach can rest and he gets the big snaps because every snap is not necessarily equal. So maybe it's something like that. Maybe you're trying to spell him a little bit, get him a little bit more rest so he can be fresher for the more important snaps or drives, et cetera, et cetera. That could be another way to approach it. Again, speculation. I don't know. That's another way to think about it.
One more follow-up on that, but 803-404-6100. Want to hear from you guys. Got to take a quick break. We'll continue to talk about Carolina's defensive line. Again, an underwhelming and underperforming offensive line for Kentucky. Two groups that are both looking to get right this week in a pivotal SEC matchup. So this will be a fascinating matchup that we'll continue to talk about next.
More of the Extra Point coming up next on 107.5 The Game.
If you have equity in your home, let Cap Center put it to work with a cash-out refinance. With competitive interest rates and a cap on closing costs, a cash-out refi with Cap Center gives you more to work with.
I'm a local business owner, so I understand the value of teamwork and communication. The Cap Center process is smoother than any I've experienced, and with the money for my cash-out refi, I was able to remodel my kitchen.
Get more with a Cap Center cash-out refinance. Believe it. Equal housing lender. Restrictions apply. Visit GamecockCentral.com for details. NMLS ID number 67717. NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Between business life, social life, and her best bud Loki, Beverly has a lot to focus on, especially while fighting Stargardt, a blinding retinal disease. But she's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Beverly, winning the fight means focusing on what's closest to her. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
Do you struggle with occasional nerve aches in your hands or feet? Try Nervive Nerve Relief from the world's #1 nerve care company. Nervive tablets contain alpha-lipoic acid to relieve nerve aches, weakness, and discomfort, plus B-complex vitamins to support healthy nerve function as you age. Live life with less nerve discomfort with Nervive Nerve Relief. Learn more at nervivehealth.com. And try Nervive Pain Relieving Cream to block nerve pain signals at the source. Use as directed.
Hey, it's Terry Ford from 107.5 The Game. Just want to yap with you a minute about real estate. Okay, if you're dealing in the real estate market, either buying or selling, it's the biggest transaction for a lot of folks that you'll ever make, right? So if you're going to be dealing with the biggest transaction you're ever going to make in your life, you need somebody you can trust and depend on, because trust and dependability are kind of important when you're dealing with this kind of money. Call my guy, Kevin Johnson, Jeff Cook Real Estate. Two key values of the Johnson team: communication, availability. Don't believe me? Write down this number real quick. 803-770-5496. That's 803-770-5496. You call it, guess what happens? Kevin will personally take your call. It won't be some 800 number talking to some guy in Billings, Montana, who doesn't know Columbia, South Carolina from Columbia, Missouri, or the country Columbia. So if you're buying or selling a home, call Kevin Johnson of Jeff Cook Real Estate, 803-770-5496, or online at johnsonteamsc.com.
One search engine is used by 9 out of 10 consumers. Hint, the name begins with a G. And there are hundreds of things that go into being ranked highly by that engine. Your website, your business profile, even your social accounts. A couple of slip-ups and you find yourself on page 7. But at Cumulus Boost, we have the experts and resources to fix what's wrong and boost your findability so you can rank higher than your competition. Get started today at cumulusboost.com. CUMULUS boost.com.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Pearson Fowler,
Chris Clark, and Wes Mitchell.
On the home of the Gamecocks.
107.5
The Game.
11:52 Tuesday morning. A couple minutes left here in the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Pearson, Preston, Wes, Chris here with you, starting Hate Week, number 1 of 2 this year. And Jeff kind of got it started. Jeff texted us earlier and was like, "Hey, Carolina's going to beat Kentucky," and we were like, "Oh yeah, that's the mantra for this season for South Carolina."
And then Hank gave us some numbers.
Yep. Now Wes is watching the game. And
yeah.
we're in the other room. He's just laughing. He's
Got the
in
Skycast
stitches
going.
right now watching Kentucky and how terrible they are on offense.
I mean,
his words.
Preston's convinced.
I'm working my way there.
He's got
boy.
He's got the not a garnet jacket, right?
Wine.
Yeah.
Oh,
Chris, how are you on your
That's a
colors?
nice jacket.
Thank you, sir.
No wine.
No. Just in general, how are you with colors?
Oh, like, do I perceive them well?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Thank you. That's how I wanted to ask that question earlier. Glad you're here.
I think so. My wife would say no, because sometimes I'll be like, that is a orange something, and she's like, no, it is not.
It's like that
this.
dress though.
Huh?
That dress, remember? And
the
some
blue
people
and
saw
the yellow
it.
or whatever it was. I mean, no, it's not like that. I think I perceive them well. I do think that's just a spouse thing. We just have some disagreements on colors sometimes.
That's fair.
Here's all y'all need to know about Kentucky.
Okay.
If you Google Kentucky roster.
Oh, I know what this is.
First thing that pops up, 2022-2023 men's basketball roster. Second thing that pops up, ESPN, Kentucky Wildcats roster. Those are basketball players. Third thing that pops up, 2023 University of Kentucky men's basketball roster. Fourth thing, an article about basketball. Fifth thing, another basketball roster. And on and on and on.
Don't tell Mark Stoops.
Yeah, you remember that the professor from Kentucky that called in said he doesn't think about Carolina? Y'all should call him back and say Google doesn't even know what your football team is.
That's right.
The entire first page.
Not even Google. They know everything.
Right, Professor White.
We should ask Alexa next.
But yeah, we're gonna have him on this week just for like a, I don't know, like trash talking session. That'll be fun.
Preston, ask him that.
Don't want to get.
Did you know that
words with
Google
a
does not
professor,
know
though? But I don't know.
We're on the second page, and it's still all basketball.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh, again, don't tell Mark Stoops. But you should tell everybody about Kendall Walsh.
I should. You should tell me when I need to be ready for that. Kendall Walsh is. I am. I'm always ready. But
you're not reading the script. You're just speaking from the heart because this is a real experience for you.
Yes, it is. Kendall helped me and my fiance buy our house. She can do the same for you. Kendall Walsh is with the Moore Company, 803-414-3590. At Work with Walsh is where you can find Kendall on Twitter or Instagram. You can also email her, workwithwalsh@gmail.com. Many of you may already know Kendall. She used to work with the Gamecock Club. Massive Gamecock fan, and can help walk you through this process. Every single day I see an article pop up about the housing market and what's it going to do. Some people say it's going to do this, that. It could be a little bit daunting. Promise you, Kendall will help walk you through it and make it much more simple than it would be if you were going at it on your own. Again, 803-414-3590. Tell Kendall that you heard about her on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour on 107.5.
All right, so here we go. Zach Pickens, the subject of just intrigue today. I think we all agree that anyone can be a 5-star player for one play. You just got to flash. You just got to have that moment. So the key is consistency. Is it possible, Preston, you planted the seed in my brain at the end of last segment in terms of the workload. You're never getting 50 snaps or whatever. Is it possible that Zach Pickens, who has not been a 5-star defensive tackle playing, 45, 50 snaps a game, whatever, is it possible that Jimmy Lindsey's like, I feel like Zach Pickens can be a 5-star player for 35 snaps. Therefore, MJ is going to have to play 30 instead of 15. Is this not a punishment, not a public calling out to try to motivate him? Could this possibly be just trying to unlock Zach? Because you were talking about like specific plays, like have him on this third down, but just to have him fresher. Is he maybe someone that just wears out more quickly?
Very possible. Absolutely possible. That's something that some people might say is about conditioning, but some players are just not as good for as long, and they might be gooder and better in gooder, not a word. They might be better in shorter bursts. So that might be something, and that's maybe something that you're figuring out, or maybe something you may have had a hunch on.
Yeah.
And now MJ has progressed to the point where you feel like you can do that now.
I'm not going to make you self-scout. After how many snaps was Langston no good?
It's a good question.
Someone with obviously a very high ceiling and a high floor.
Yeah, definitely high ceiling. Langston was probably one of those players that once that tank was empty, it wasn't going to be great.
So, but
I don't know. I
can't
remember what the number is, but
yeah,
when you look out on the field, you see them hands on the hip.
Yeah,
it's probably not going to be a great play coming after that.
So maybe it's taken 5 games to figure out that Zach has that number, and maybe they thought that number was 52 and that number's 44.
Possible.
I think we are reading very deep into this. But I will say Zach Pickens has played the 4th most snaps on the defense this year. So, that was always something that Will Muschamp said was basically, you got to rotate your defensive linemen because once the big guys on the defensive line wear out, it's hard for them to get it back was something he always said. I don't agree.
Fair.
So, 2 of your top 4 in snap count this year for the season are defensive linemen. One being Birch and the other being Pickens.
Interesting.
And Zach actually played the highest defensive line snap total, even against SC State. I think he played 50 snaps in that game, which I found kind of interesting.
Well, are we reading too much into this? And by we, I mean most specifically me. Absolutely. Did I have fun doing it today? Yes. I hope you guys had fun listening. We appreciate you guys being a part of the show as always. We'll be curious to hear from other South Carolina players, including Tonka Hemingway, also on the defensive line. We'll be curious to hear from Shane Beamer coming up in about an hour and a half. And of course, we'll have it for you live here on 107.5 The Game. Appreciate you all listening, and we will be back tomorrow.
Celebrating our 15th anniversary is Columbia's Sports Talk Station, sponsored by Lexington Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia.
107.5 The Game.
A Cumulus media station.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required. Refund available for 60 days after purchase.
Guys, want an effective, affordable way to get ED medication 100% online? Whether you're looking for Viagra or Cialis, or generic medications as effective as Viagra but 90% cheaper, you can find it all through HIMS. HIMS is your go-to for doctor-trusted treatments to help you treat ED. Get ED treatment for as low as $3 per use and save up to $1,000 per month with generic for Viagra versus the brand name at 4hims.com/radio. If prescribed, your medication will be shipped to your door in discreet packaging. Do it all online. No in-person appointments. Get hard results